I'm just curious, like, do things change in the cheese world where a question from 10 years ago isn't relevant anymore today because maybe something's changed?
We have to be careful when we name cheeses in questions that they have to be available across the country. Because it's not only American cheeses, because retailers sell cheeses from around the world. We have to make sure that what used to be the Wabash Cannonball, can you get it in New York? Yeah. Maybe not. So you can't talk about it in the question. That's part of the exam review process. And another part of the exam review process is
CCP. You were talking to Izzy and I about how you were involved in it.
Yeah, so I was I think it was 2023. It was, I think, my second ACS conference. And Lori Greenblatt and Kathy Guidi had a breakout session about what if we did a certification exam along the lines of WSET. And they had someone from WSET there too.
And what's WSET?
Wine and Spirits Education Trust.
Okay.
Where you get the
sommeliers.
Yeah, the master sommelier.
Okay.
And a master of wine.
Okay.
And so their program is 4 levels and blah, blah, blah. And so that was a really interesting idea. And I volunteered to take notes on the flip chart. Be careful.
Don't volunteer. So
be careful. And you never know where that one's going to lead. And it's the only time I have ever seen a breakout session at ACS decide that they were going to continue the conversation, go get a box lunch and find another empty conference room and go on for another hour.
Wow. So
it was an idea that people were really inspired by. So it wasn't my idea, but I stuck with it, and we had, we formed what did they used to be called? Now it's like a WhatsApp chat, but it was
like a committee,
it was like an online group thing, but it was primitive. And so we kind of bumbled along for the first couple of years, let's put on a play in a barn level. And then in, year 3, maybe, this guy named Jeff Katcher shows up. And he was in the certification industry. That's where he had made his career, but he was doing a career change and opened a cheese shop. And so it was like the perfect convergence of things that we really, really needed. We needed someone who understood the industry and who knew way more than we did about certification, because we knew nothing. Right. And we didn't know that there was actually a certification industry, which there is.
I didn't know that either.
Whole industry. And it involves law exams and pharmacy exams, all the certifications that are legally required. That's part of that industry too. So he said, okay, this is how you need to think about it this way. This is what you need to do. You need to have a body of knowledge. We're like, what's that? Because you don't write an exam. You write an exam based on your body of knowledge. Well, we wrote the exam and then started cobbling together a body of knowledge. It was really... And we still don't have a good body of knowledge. We still need to do a lot of work on that. We've done a lot of work on it, but it needs to be more. At any rate, and then he put us onto the certification consultant, Joan Knapp, who really took us under her wing, and we hired her, but she did a great job. And she said, okay, you don't have a body of knowledge, because we had put out an RFP for people to help us with the certification exam. And they all came back and said, well, show us your body of knowledge. We're like, we don't have one. Sorry. And so Joan was like, I can help you figure out how to do a quick and dirty, semblance of a body of knowledge. So we put together teams of experts from different domains in the industry and had them come together in day-long workshops and have them write the body of knowledge.
Wow.
Like outlines and stuff. And that was the beginning of that. And then, we progressed and wrote the exam. And we basically created the exam along the lines of we're a certification, but we built it along the lines and to the standards of a licensing exam. The difference between certification and licensing is required for financial consultants, for doctors, for pharmacists, et cetera. They have to have a license in order to practice their craft. Certification is voluntary. It's industry-wide, but it's voluntary. And a true certification is an exam that is not based on a specific curriculum. So, because if it's just based on a specific curriculum, it's a diploma or a certificate. It's not a certification because it requires a boxed-in set of knowledge.
Interesting.
So the Academy of Cheese in the UK, you can take their exam without doing the work, but they've written a very specific module and their entire exam, and theirs is 4 levels. Their entire program is based on their post-make classification of cheeses, which they wrote. They invented that.
Wow.
And you can't pass their exams unless you know that.
Right.
So it's similar to a certification, but really it's a certificate or a diploma.
Okay.
I collaborate very deeply with the Academy of Cheese. So I love them. I admire them. They're doing amazing work. So I have nothing negative to say.
Yeah.
It's just to illustrate the difference between certification and diploma. So we took 8 years.
And so during this time, you're still having ACS.
Yeah.
American Cheese Society was up until that point solely getting American cheesemakers together.
Well, no, the ACS has always been the entire industry. It's never just been cheesemakers.
Okay.
Its emphasis and its heart is with artisan cheesemakers.
Yes.
And that was actually, when I was on the board, that was actually written into our revised statement of purpose. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Vision statement.
Vision.
But it includes the entire industry, which is fairly rare in terms of cheese associations around the globe.
Okay.
For instance, here in France, the Federation of French Cheesemongers is cheesemongers. It's not makers.
Okay.
And only recently have they started to sort of reach out to cheesemakers. And there's the Specialist Cheesemakers Association in the UK and the Academy of Cheese, which is sort of a school training program that is open to anyone in any country.
Yeah.
But the Specialist Cheesemakers Association is for cheesemakers. So the ACS is pretty fabulous, I think, in that it's the whole industry. It's artisans. It's tiny. It's micro creameries. It's tiny little shops. But it also includes lactalis.
You're right.
Everyone is welcome in the fold.
Yeah.
Because it's about cheese.
Yeah.
And
so during this 8 years, we're building a program.
well, the CCP, the Certified Cheese Professional program, was trying to figure out what we were and trying to communicate what we were. So we were having sessions at ACS conferences to give updates on our progress and to talk about, okay, this is what the exam is, and this is, and we were trying to draw the board in, because the board had a hard time wrapping its head around it, because in the ACS, usually initiatives are top down from the board, but this was a grassroots thing, and they didn't quite know what to do with us.
Sure, right, yeah.
And we didn't have committee status until like our 5th year.
Wow.
Yeah. And there was not even a definition of cheese educator as a membership category at ACS. We did that. The certification people did that.
Okay.
So we had a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we finally, in the 2011, I think it was, when we were actually writing the exam. Mm-hmm. And so we would solicit people to write exam questions according to a grid that still exists. It's still on the website, of tasks that are done at domains in the industry. And that's the grid upon which we base the exam, and questions are allocated to that grid. And so that's a study guide. And so we solicited subject matter experts from across the industry to write questions according to these guidelines.
Yeah.
And then we had, and this is still how it works, we had a team of people who would take those exams, those questions, and rip them apart and rewrite them and make them better.
Okay.
And they're all multiple choice exam questions with a root and then four options. And so we decided to get the board of directors involved directly by having a day-long work session where they actually did that work. They took these questions and they ripped them apart and they rewrote them. And it wasn't until then that the board finally oh, that's what you've been talking about for 7 years. So that was a big step forward.
Okay. And then I've never taken the test, so I don't know anything about it. I understand now there's multiple questions. How do you ensure that people don't cheat? Meaning, like, do you have 1,000 questions, but every year you only ask 300?
No, well, yes, we have a data bank of questions.
Okay.
And
do they change ever? Like,
they do.
Add to
a certain percentage turns over.
Okay.
You don't change out the entire exam every year. That's impractical. And questions are not so easy to write.
I bet. But this is where I'm leading you.
Yeah.
AI. Like, do you think that I'm just curious, like, do things change in the cheese world where a question from 10 years ago isn't relevant anymore today because maybe something's changed?
Yes, there are questions that you can take out.
You could take it.
If you had a question that named a specific American cheese that's no longer made, you have to take that out of the bank.
Okay.
Or, I mean, we have to be careful when we name cheeses in questions that they have to be available across the country. Okay. Whether they're European, because it's not only American cheeses, because retailers sell cheeses from around the world.
Yeah.
But we have to make sure that, what used to be the Wabash Cannonball, can you get it in New York? Maybe not. So you can't talk about it in a question.
Wow. Okay.
So we have to, that's part of the exam review process.
Interesting.
And another part of the exam review process is you have to look at all of the questions and make sure that one question doesn't tip off the answer to another question.
Oh, yeah. For sure. For sure.
I mean, it's very complex, and it did require consultants who are specialists in this to help us figure out how to do it. And that's an ongoing process every year. We compose the exam. We add new questions in. We switch questions out, a certain percentage every year. So it's never the same exam.
Yeah.
And we review all of the questions to make sure that there's no chewing of other questions. We make sure that they're still relevant. We make sure that they're still up to date. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. Yeah. And we have consultants that work with us on that. And then score. So it's a 300 question exam.
300. Okay.
It's all multiple choice. And we use a Scantron thing. We initially did it on computers.
Okay.
And that became very, very unwieldy. So now it's actually, you hand fill in.
It's like old 1990s, the way I learned.
Yeah. And there's high security.
Okay.
In the room. It's a locked room.
Okay.
You can go to the bathroom, but you have to be accompanied by a proctor. You can't bring anything into the room except a pencil.
Not even your wallet.
You can't bring your wallet, can't bring your phone, nothing.
Good. That's great. Do you check when people come in? They're like,
Yeah, well, we have a check room where people, it's secure and there's someone there with everyone's belongings. We have a cloakroom that we keep everyone's stuff in, and they have their little ticket to get their stuff back. And yes, we check people. And we provide pencils. And there are a handful of questions that require some mathematical calculations on margins or whatever. And so we provide a calculator.
Okay. Wow. All right. How long does it take somebody to take?
You have 3 hours.
What? 3 hours? That's a long time. My brain.
Yeah, not everyone. Well, not everyone needs 3 hours.
Okay.
But some people take 3 hours because they want to go back and check every question.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And so recently we've been doing it also online.
You have?
Yeah, remotely online. And that has a whole different set of security questions because they have to have a camera on that's watching them.
Yeah. Okay.
And this year we used a new company to do that secure remote test taking. And it was AI that was watching the people.
Yeah.
And they flagged behaviors, but we didn't catch them in real time. And so there were a couple of little glitches that we now thought, oh, okay, we got to communicate this. We got to make sure that there's actually a person monitoring who can intervene in real time and say, what did you just bend over and pick up from the floor?
Yeah.
Or, you know, you left the room.
Yeah.
There's a break in the virtual exams so people can have a break in the middle and go to the bathroom if they need to.
Sure.
And it's, to a certain extent, it's an honor system. I mean, they can go to the bathroom on the break and look some stuff up in a book if they need to, but it's on the honor system that you're not going to do that.
So why did you guys decide to do online? I'm curious.
COVID?
Yeah. Oh, duh.
It was actually always something that we were thinking about doing
Okay.
from the beginning, but we had to figure out the infrastructure for it, and we're still perfecting it. We're still perfecting that.
Sure.
But it's been a popular option. There were quite a number of people who did it online this year.
All of
Because
was online this year, I think.
I don't know. I don't even know the statistics, but it's entirely possible because it's expensive because we give the exam in person at ACS.
Yes.
So, and we looked into using testing centers, which is also a thing that exists in lots of major cities where you can go and take your law exam or your whatever. And we decided not to do. It's very, very expensive to use testing centers.
But you have to have proctors at ACS. So
We have proctors that are volunteers, and a lot of them are from the certification committee. So
Izzy, I'm going to have you hold this because I want you to talk. Tell me about your experience taking it, and when did you take it? Because I heard you saying to Sue, I heard about this and I kind of got in on it quick or something. Maybe tell me about that.
Yeah, I read about it in Culture Magazine, I think the year after it started. And that was my first year in cheese. And I was like, oh my God, there's some sort of certification for this. I've already fallen in love with this cheese, this world, this entire everything that we get to do with it. And now I can take a test and like prove to everyone that I'm certified. That's awesome. So I took it the first availability, like once I was finally in the industry for long enough, I signed up for it. And I wasn't independent at that time, just working at a co-op. So I had to pay for my way to get there. And it would have been a little bit easier if there had been that online version. But it was 2013 in Sacramento was the year that I got certified.
It's the second exam.
Yep. And it helped me become a better cheesemonger and cheese professional because I studied obsessively. Like my note cards were with me all the time. I wish I had kept those actually so I could go back and look at those now.
Well, see, that's a really great point that you make, Izzy, because we just sent out the letters informing people whether they passed or not.
I keep looking online.
And the ones that say you didn't pass actually say you have demonstrated a deep commitment to your place in the industry. Mm-hmm. And we recognize that and we value that. And, you know, to a large extent, doing the prep to take the exam is where the value is.
100%.
You know? 100%. I mean, yes, it helps to have the initials.
Yeah.
But really the prep is, you know.
It's where you learn the things that you didn't know before. That's the other side of the industry.
Well, from the beginning, we asked, okay, are we going to do education or are we going to do an exam? And why do we need an exam? Well, because we did surveys. We surveyed the industry many times over various issues in preparing this whole program. And we asked people, how do you know about cheese? Internet, not a reliable source, my friends. I mean, if you look at a lot of sites about cheese, it's copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste of the wrong information.
Gabio 2 is not a raw milk cheese anymore, and that is still out there on the internet.
Right. Or just on the job training. Well, on the job training is great, but it's only what you do in that shop. There's nothing else. Yeah. And then reading books. And at the time, there were not nearly as many books on cheese as there are now.
Yep.
And we debated for a long time in the committee, are we going to do an education program like the Academy of Cheese has, or are we going to do an exam and sort of on the lines of, if you build it, they will come, from Field of Dreams, maybe, for those of you who are too young to have seen that movie. And that was my point of view, and I argued long and hard for that, and I won. Because ACS, the staff didn't have the capacity to write a curriculum and deliver a curriculum. It was not in our scope. And so we thought, well, if there's an exam, there's a reason for people to create cheese education. But without an exam, without any objective for it, why start a school? And it didn't quite turn out the way that we thought it would. People actually developed study groups rather than establishing schools. We thought there were lots of schools popping up, and there weren't.
Are there any?
Well, there's the school that I work with. There's Mons Formation. And
There's a
so
couple.
Hervé Mons, affineur retailer in France, was a longtime supporter and was always present at ACS for many years. And he, in those days, he was really a rock star. And we were looking for funding just for the first year, just to cover the startup costs, because then we figured, and it has been true, that the carrying costs, the operating costs, the exam pays for itself. But it was between 60 and $100,000 to in consulting fees and things over the years to start the program up. And so we did a one-time fundraiser. We called out to the industry. We said, we're not going to ask you for this money again. This is one time. And the first person to write a check was Hervé Mons, a French visionary who got it. He got what this was about. And so January of 2012, when the exam came out in July and was terminated, we sent out the notices in September or October. In January, I said, okay, guys, I've been on this project for 8 years. I'm retiring off the project. Find a new chair of the committee, which turned out to be Max McCalman. And Hervé, long story short, he approached me and said, I have a brother, he's got a cheese school. We want you to do that in English with us. And long story short, I've been doing that for 13 years.
I have to say another really cool thing about the test for me was Max McCallman's books were what I studied obsessively. I love his book.
Yeah.
And it came full circle for me when I got to judge with him a couple years later. I've always highly respected him. So it's so cool how you see these people throughout the industry and people that you looked up to, you end up rubbing shoulders with, and you learn they're just these really awesome people, and it helps you appreciate the industry even more.
Yeah. The American cheese industry is pretty awesome because it's very, very, very collegial, which is not the case everywhere. It's really not the case everywhere.
So tell me what you mean by collegial, and tell me what you see other places.
So collegial in that everyone is welcomed into the fold. And I mean, I remember the first ACS I went to, I think was 2002 in San Francisco. And I was nobody in cheese. I had just moved back from 6 years in Europe. I had babies at home. I had been teaching cheese in a small way at the Ritz-Escoffier cooking school, but it was sort of a 3-hour cheese class every 6 weeks. It wasn't like I wasn't fully in it. And so I showed up at an American Cheese Society conference, and I'm no one, and I had I had lost my entire network of food professionals because I'd been away for too long, and people were just treated me like equals. And it was wonderful. It was very small. There were maybe, a few hundred people there. But it was really great. It's very open. And people, yes, of course, people compete in the US industry. It's a big country. And people are really, really willing to share. They just are really willing to share. They're willing to share their insights, their knowledge, pass it on. They're not going to share trade secrets, but it's we refer to ACS as cheese camp.
Yes.
Because, the day that everyone arrives, it's like in the lobby of the hotel, it's like, I'm so excited to see you. Shouts of joy, which is very not French. The French kind of makes their skin crawl. But, I've had students at Mons Formation from 45 countries. And, in Australia, I had stories from, a goat cheese maker who, people would shut her out because they didn't want to compete with her. And it's like, there's not that much cheese making in Australia. I mean, it's growing, but, that's a big country. France is a small country with a really big dairy industry. It's like really, really big. And everyone knows everyone. See here at the salon, everybody knows everybody. And everybody competes with everybody. And when people in France, even before I came on board, learned that Mons was teaching, they're like, what? You're giving away trade secrets and you're giving them away to foreigners? So it's not always as, open sharing and collegial and like, hey, it's good to see you.
So I very much remember talking to Jeremy Stevenson from Springwood Farm, and
For him, what an amazing,
he's such a
amazing,
humble,
I feel
kind
on board
human
with-
being.
I was very lucky.
I wish that I could have worked a lot more closely with him than I ever have. But I remember him saying, like, I showed up in my first ACS and I didn't know anyone. I was nervous as all get out. And here comes Kim Ayanati. You should sit right next to me here. And you make lifelong friends. Everyone's friendly.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
And then you get to know them a little bit better, and you learn that someone like Jeremy makes some of the best raw milk cheeses in the United States, inspired by French cheeses. I just love the industry.
Well, Tracy Colley, who's the executive director of the Academy of Cheese in the UK, she went to ACS for the first time this year because she was on a panel that I proposed. And she was blown away. She's like, this is amazing, amazing, amazing. And so, she was really inspired by ACS.
Yeah, this was my first ACS this year.
Okay.
And I had no idea about the vibe. I didn't know there could be a vibe. I've never felt there was any negativity in the industry at all.
Yeah.
But when I go to the shows, I've only gone to shows, right? Cheese Camp is the best definition. It was, and then you want to be more part of it. Like, I'm signing up next year. I'm making sure my calendar is empty because, and I didn't plan on being there the entire time. So I left early. I probably maybe got there late. I can't remember, but I did not stay the whole time. And I felt like I gypped myself, totally. Yeah.
There was a really good session. That was one of my sessions on social and corporate responsibility on the last day that not a lot of people went to because they were leaving.
Yeah.
So, but they've asked us to maybe do it as a webinar as well. So
You should.
We'll do it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a really good. I would like there to be a grassroots groundswell around that within ACS, because I think that's something that, ACS is very politically correct and, all about diversity, which is really good because our industry, if you look around at this salon, it's white like milk.
No, we know. I want to tell you, I'm really proud. Peterson did the very first BIPOC scholarship at ACS.
Great.
And I'm proud of that because I looked around the cheese industry and I was like, I always felt it was a cultural thing, I'm just saying the culture is, I can see that's their historical culture, like European, whatever, and it's not mine. And so I'm going to kind of stay away from learning more. And so we thought it's all about education. That's where you're going to start anything good.
But it's also about reaching out because, anybody can be a cheesemonger. Anybody can make cheese. And I think that there was a perception that was accurate that doors were not open.
No, for sure. Yeah. Doors may not have been open, and also people didn't even.
Well, they didn't see themselves reflected.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Do you have a percentage of, usually this percentage of people pass the test?
Oh, so scoring the test is not based on a number, how many questions did you get right?
Okay.
Scoring the test is actually, it's a fairly high percentage. I don't know the current percentage for this year, but I think historically it's been around 80, 85%.
Okay.
So it's now, the prerequisite to be able to take the test is you have to have 4,000 hours of experience directly working with cheese.
Okay.
And there are a bunch of requirements. So you can't just take the test.
I couldn't just go and say,
unless you've got
the test today.
Unless you've got 4,000, and it can't be like in the accounting office. And
that's what I mean. Yeah, I couldn't take the test. I'm non-qualified.
Yeah, I didn't have enough hours working with cheese the first year, so I was not eligible to take it. I took it the second year; it was available.
But the objective, the reason that we have that, is so that people have a reasonable expectation of passing. We don't want people to shell out a bunch of money, show up at ACS, take the test, and fail.
That's great.
We want people to succeed.
Yes.
And not everyone does. Okay, but the scoring is really complex because the first thing that happens is we look at the exam and how many questions. So questions are rated according to the level of difficulty, the style of question, whether it's rote memorization, whether it's reasoning, or whether it's sort of a little bit more remote, like have to think it through and apply other knowledge to it.
Right.
And so there's those grids, and we look at questions that should be easy, and we look at how many people actually got the easy questions right. And if there's a question where an awful lot of people got an easy question wrong, we look at the question. And we examine the question and say, was this a good question, or were there two possible correct answers that we kind of missed when we were reviewing the exam?
Right.
And if that's the case, if it's the question that's at fault, we pull the question from every exam score.
Okay.
So it's not on the takers, it's on us.
Right.
Because we didn't get that question right.
Right.
There's not very many questions that have this, because we do have a very good process. But that's the first step.
Okay.
And then it's crunching a lot of it's a lot of numbers and statistical stuff that the consultants work on.
Yeah.
Because I can't.
Yeah, sure.
I had a hard time wrapping my head around it when I was actively developing the exam, and I still don't have my head wrapped around it. But it's very sophisticated.
Yeah.
And it's very fair because it's not a competitive exam. We don't care how many people pass the exam. If we have a 100% pass rate, that's fine. It would be unexpected. But it's fabulous. We don't have, you have to get 70 questions right, or you have to get 130 questions. It's not like that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty sophisticated, and it's very fair. And if you fail, there's an appeals process.
There's a what?
There's an appeals process.
Okay.
So you can say, I think I shouldn't have failed, and you have to demonstrate that, and then we have a subcommittee that looks at that and considers it and says, yeah, we agree with you. No, we don't agree with you. We have an appeals process for people who are not accepted to take the exam. We have an appeals process for people who don't recertify or who are not qualified to recertify, because you have to recertify every 3 years. You don't have to take the test again.
Okay.
You have to demonstrate activity, X number of hours active in the industry and education, et cetera. So you only have to take the test once. But there's there are appeals process.
Yes, it's about
and
fair.
so it's really about being fair and supporting the industry. We're not trying to close doors. We're trying to keep doors open.
Right. That's great. That's so much.
It's such a great thing that you guys have done for the industry, truly.
No, I agree.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Very, very impressive. Very impressive. Given this 8 years of your life.
It's really a legacy project.
Yeah. It is a legacy.
The teaching that I've done with Mons, making this French knowledge available to people who speak English around the world, 45, 47 countries. The translation I've done for Professionalize magazine and books, that's 7 years of work of making knowledge available, across the world in English, and the CCP exam are all sort of projects that I'm really, really proud of. And there's another one coming.
Ooh, we're going to have a second podcast.
I have another podcast coming in 2027.
May 27?
Sometime in 2027.
Okay. Okay.
It's a collaboration between me and the Academy of Cheese and the Federation of French Cheesemongers.
Wow.
Yeah. Good stuff. Stay tuned.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Sue.
You're welcome.
So much. Really. Will you hold up your badge so I don't mess anything up? Okay, there we go. Yep, got it.